Amber was right. Or was she? Amber from Invincible, this character right here, has been a point of contention for comic book fans, animation fans, fans of general good media for what seems like years now. It's absolutely insane, and the discussion surrounding it I thought ended a long time ago when Invincible Season 1 aired. How long ago was that? Can we get my video on it? To see a time frame? Well, geez Louise, that's longer than I imagined. I imagined a day based on how much people talk about this issue. And it's been a problem for so long. Basically, this character from this cartoon, broke up with her boyfriend. Now you must be saying, if you don't know, what's the problem with that? Well, the boyfriend is Invincible, the superhero, which if you don't know again is basically like if Superboy was Spider-Man. She broke up with him because he was being, well, late constantly and lied to her about his secret identity, and people are like, well, why would she break up with him for that? I mean, he needs to lie about that, and you know, he has an excuse for being late. And I'm gonna get into detail exactly what the arguments against Amber are, and we're also going to look at this discussion and figure out, was Amber right at being mad at Mark? We're gonna be looking through every single episode from when Amber's introduced, which is episode 1, to when the relationship ends, which is episode 7. We're not gonna go past episode 7 or into season 2 because that does not concern the conversation, which is, was Amber right to be mad at Mark during that time period? Anything after is retroactive. We're only going to be talking about that, and we're going to be looking in some serious detail. So if you're ready for that, I would say grab some popcorn, grab some water, stay hydrated, strap in, because we're going to get intense, and I have some thoughts. But before any of that, hit it. Hey y'all, Chillixion here, your internet's favorite Quaker Oats hater, the #1 hater of Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats are disgusting. And welcome to another YouTube video. I know the setup looks a little different, right? Don't worry about that. Maybe I switch dimensions. Who knows what happens. Invincible is an Amazon Prime original animated TV show adapting the Invincible comic, created by Robert Kirkman. It is an indie comic released in Image, following Mark Grayson. This guy, he is a half human, half Viltrumite. What is a Viltrumite? Well, imagine basically Kryptonians and Saiyans in one. They are an alien race with superpowers, and you know, they do some stuff that's kind of cool. They're kind of strong, basically. And he is half human, half Viltrumite, and his father is Omni-Man. He is a Viltrumite visitor who was sent here to be sort of a Superman Sentry-esque figure, you know, to save the world and help people. But massive spoilers for Invincible, the first episode, but this is basically the premise, so if you haven't seen it. Omni-Man is not a good guy. No, he came to Earth to colonize Earth and take it over. Yeah, and he's not the good guy. Omni-Man is actually the bad guy, but Mark is the hero. And a lot of Invincible is Mark basically balancing his superhero life and the craziness that comes with it with his normal human life, ending high school, going into college, and eventually, you know, he gets older and older, and the comics get super cool. I love the Invincible comics. I made an entire video about this, about the first season, and it's great. It's an amazing superhero story. I love me some superhero stories. I think it tackles it in a really interesting way, and it shows that there's a lot more originality in the superhero type of story, not a genre, than we might suspect. And Invincible just does a great job of doing it, and does a great job of writing its characters, and people love it. It is probably one of the most famous shows of the modern era of the 2020s, along with shows like The Boys and blah blah blah. And with people loving it, and with people watching it and giving their thoughts, and it being so popular amongst not just adults but also younger people, there is going to be some discussion, some contention. And Invincible is a show for mature audiences, so it will tackle mature themes and complex subjects. And sometimes the internet has a bit of a trouble talking about complex subjects. I don't know, if you want evidence, check the comments, I think. Hey, if you're mad about this, comment down below. It boosts my engagement, but also you'll get me riled up and I won't be able to sleep tonight, so get that energy out there. Basically, a good portion of the first season of Invincible is, of course, Invincible, learning to be a superhero, but also he is having a relationship with this girl, Amber Bennett, who is a regular human girl, and it's basically a Spider-Man Mary Jane scenario. He's invincible behind the scenes, but he's a person. He's like, let's go on a date, and she's like, okay, and then he has to do superhero stuff. She's like, why were you late? Blah, 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 blah. That's where a lot of the drama comes from. Robert Kirkman was pretty inspired by Spider-Man stories for that, and it's pretty evident. This is a very typical Spider-Man-esque story, teen superhero story. It's great, that's why we love it. But like I said, there was some big drama concerning a choice that the character Amber made in Invincible, and I want to really look at it because I've been thinking about this for so long, and if you know me, you know my opinions, but I made sure I did a lot of research to figure out the answer. Was Amber valid for being mad? Because that is a question we have to ask, and we can't just go off our emotions, but I actually want to look at the episodes and figure it out, and figure out if it's because, just figure out if the fanboys are mad at Amber because Amber is being ridiculous, and is being a B word, and is being real naughty, or if they don't like black women. So everyone, let's find out. Was she right? For the purposes of this video, I went through Invincible episode by episode and just took notes on the interactions between Mark and Amber and any extra things that I thought would be necessary for further analysis. And we're just going to go through them, episode 1 through episode 7, and we're going to denote some specific things about the relationship so that we can build our case to figure out, was she right or was she wrong? Episode 1 is pretty simple, Invincible. I mean, we know what happens. Mark lives a normal life. He's on the pooper. He throws a garbage bag. Omni-Man kills the Guardians of the Globe. Pretty simple first episode. It's iconic. Amber is introduced in this episode. She's introduced as a pretty independent type person. One of the jocks is hitting on her, and she's like, oh, I don't really fuck with you type shit. And he's like, really? And, fight ensues. Mark tries to jump in, showing his heroic side, and he gets a bit hit. But then Amber fights back, showing that Amber is strong. Amber is independent, and Amber is her own person with her own desires, but she's not a caricature. She's not like a cartoon. Well, she is a cartoon. She's not real, but she's not a caricature of a headstrong black woman. She is a legitimately headstrong woman who is black. That is just the type of character she is. She feels like a real 17 to 18-year-old high school girl who, lives in the city and is who she is, and it's, a very good character introduction. But in episode 1, she is introduced, and some hints are shown that maybe her and Mark will have a bit of a relationship moving on, but she doesn't really do much past this in the very first episode. In episode 2 of Invincible, however, the relationship moves forward a bit when Amber gives Mark her number. Not directly, but through the jock. So it's a bit of extra work, but she actively is pursuing Mark in some type of way. She doesn't really formally ask him out, but giving the number is a bit of a hint, especially in those high school days. Maybe she's not committed to a long-time relationship, but she's interested in at least a little interaction, Mark. Don't fuck this up, you stupid idiot. In episode 3, this is where we have the first big move of the relationship. Mark calls Amber and asks her out on a study date, a date where they're gonna, study some school stuff, and Amber accepts, and this is legitimately a first date. William comes over and is like, hey man, your clothes are on the floor, and also this room smells like and you definitely were jacking off. You're a sick Yeah, William comes in, and it's advice for a date. Mark is actively having a date. Eventually, Amber comes over, and they're gonna have that study date. It's going pretty smooth until beep beep beep. Cecil's like, hey man, you're a superhero, you can't have fun no more. Eventually, Mark has to go to Mount Rushmore to take care of Doc Seismic, while Amber just kind of stays at his house, which is incredibly nice. I mean, this is not a part of the argument I'm gonna give on whether she's right or wrong, but staying at a nigga's house that you, by the way, you don't hang out with him. He's not your friend. He's a random. You've maybe spoken to him 10 times. And you're staying at his house while he's not even there? And you're black? Go home! But eventually Mark comes back and Amber is f***ing angry. Obviously. Because that sucks. That's an awful experience. However, Mark, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Amber. Please, please give me a chance or whatever. He's like, please give me a chance. And Amber's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you a chance. How about that? Because you're kind of cute and I kind of like you. And I stayed here all this time. I might as well date you type shit. They spark, they make out, boom, boom, boom. They are, let's say, dating starting now. Episode 4, the relationship continues being great. Mark and Amber actually go on an uninterrupted date in this episode. That is incredible for the relationship and it sets up so much for the future. Like Mark even says, this is the best date we've ever had. Whether that means it's their second date and out of 2 that's the best one, or that means that they have multiple, is up to someone who's better at rewatching and taking notes than me, I guess. In episode 5, it's shown that Mark is consistently late with hangouts or dates with Amber, and that she's kind of sick of it. She's like, hey man, you're always late and you always come down with some nonsense excuse. And it's pretty obvious that it's nonsense. It's not like, oh, Mark says something and Amber legitimately believes it when she says stuff like, all right and okay. She is being, like, she's not serious. Like, she's not going to expand on her because, she doesn't want to argue, but she doesn't believe it. And it's pretty obvious to anyone who's watching with their eyes open and their brain working. And there are 2 major moments in this episode that kind of push this relationship over the edge in terms of Mark being consistently late. The first one is that Mark promises to go to dinner with Amber and, meet her parents. This is the big important moment. And, Mark's like, I promise I'm going to go. And then boom, he has to do something, and that takes up all his time. He comes over 2 hours late, and Amber is pissed the off. Like, she is absolutely angry, and this is the most important part. She kind of breaks up with Mark in here. Like, she kind of breaks up with him here. Like, he doesn't officially say, it's over, and then kicks him out of the house, but she's like, I can't do this. This is aggravating. You always got excuses and excuses and excuses. And Mark's like, well, I gotta deal with my dad's business. I gotta do this work and stuff. Basically being like, I have responsibilities, but I can't tell you what they are. Because he's being super vague. He's not saying he can't tell her what they are, but he is being super vague, and Amber's not stupid. Amber being like, yeah, you have all these responsibilities, then go do them. Just don't rope me into this. I've been down this road before. Saying, do the responsibilities, just don't date me if you can't balance doing that, doing the responsibilities, and dating me at the same time. Just don't date me. And that is super important. She says this in episode 5. Episode 5, she establishes, hey, if you can't do this and this, don't do it. I don't want that. She also is like, don't lie to me. I don't like being lied to. These are very important moments that I think people forget when they're talking about the Amber drama and disliking Amber. She establishes her boundaries outright. Does she do it in a kind of mad way? Yes, but because she's not happy right now. She doesn't feel overjoyed. Like, she even asks, like, do you think I'm important? That's showing, like, at least a little bit, hey, I feel a bit unimportant when you do this to me. I don't feel good. And Mark is like, just give me another chance. Just give me another chance. And Amber's like, okay, because you always give me my favorite stuff, and it makes me feel good, so I'm going to give you one more chance, but come on, you got to do it this time. And the next time they meet in this episode, Amber makes it very clear that she's still mad at Mark, but he's going to give him that other chance. And she still loves him. They're still dating, but they're in a bit of a rocky patch. And she's like, you need to come to the soup kitchen. You need to come to the soup kitchen, Mark, because this is the last time. This is really important to me, and I really want you to do this. Can you do this? Mark says, yes, I can. He basically confirms that, yes, he can come to the soup kitchen. Obviously, we know what happens in that episode. He gets busy with a villain. It's not just a regular one. It's Battle Beast and Machine Head and all that. Mark gets beat to a pulp. It's not like, he was a bit late. He literally couldn't be there. He went to the hospital. And I want to use this to make something clear. When I'm discussing this and I'm saying that Mark was late, I'm not saying Mark was late and he should feel bad for it. He shouldn't feel bad for being late. He had no control over that, right? He's a superhero. He has stuff to do. But again, the choice he's making isn't, being a superhero. I mean, that is a choice, but obviously that's the choice he should make. The choice he's making is making these promises. But anyway, Mark is in the hospital. He is beaten to the brink of death, and he cannot make it to the soup kitchen. When we cut back to Amber and Eve, who's also there, Amber's like, yeah, I mean, he didn't come, whatever, that was his last try. Eve eventually finds out and is like, Amber, Mark physically couldn't have come if he wanted to. I can't tell you what though. And Amber's like, that's a bit weird. he must be hurt. And then he is in the hospital. A lie gets told to William and Amber that he got ran over, I think was the lie. He eventually comes at the hospital, but for episode 5, that's how it ends. He goes in the hospital, he doesn't make it to the soup kitchen. That last chance was sort of wasted on him getting the shit beat out of him by Battle Beast. Episode 6, Mark and Amber reunite, and to say emotions are very, very complicated. Amber says, I basically broke up with you that night, meaning that Mark did not show up to the soup kitchen, and Amber was like, well, that was his last chance, and he's not here, so boom, he's done. I've broken up with him. She emotionally detached herself from Mark, and then found out that he was hurt and couldn't come because of medical reasons. The emotions are complicated. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm trying not to be super biased right now, but the emotions are complicated, and that's what we're gonna say. However, Mark is like, hey, give me one more chance to make this all better. You let me try again, even though this is technically his 3rd time, or 4th time, damn. Like, this is a big time of him trying again. But my point is basically, he's like, hey, let me try again. We're gonna have a day all to ourselves. And Amber's like, okay, we will. Amber and Mark go with William to the college, and, you know, they're hanging out, they're having a great time. Mark even says, hey, do you want to possibly go to college here together? Basically saying, I want to spend at least a good portion of my future in the same place as you. It's not like, hey, let's move in together, but it is a pretty big step since this defines both of their futures, especially at this moment right out of high school. He's pretty serious about this. And then, you know, the film attacks. Amber's like, let's help some people. Mark's like, let's help some people. And he's like, well, I gotta be invincible. Leaves, is invincible. Comes back as Mark. And Amber is pissed the F off. And as Amber is mad as hell, they're basically fighting. She does not want to talk to him. She doesn't want to see him. He blew his final chance. It's basically all over for Mark. He can't even get a single word in with her. She is beyond angry at him, not just for suddenly leaving, but also based on her language for lying. She does say, you lying sack of shit. Then in episode 7, this is the big climax to this relationship, or at least as part of this relationship, as Mark is trying to get to Amber, trying to be like, Amber, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, I'm sorry, why are we fighting, I'm sorry. And eventually, at this moment, only when he has no other choice, he chooses to finally do the thing, the sensible thing, and reveal that he is invincible to Amber. And this is the part where everyone gets mad. Amber says she knows. Yeah, Amber knew that Mark was invincible and that he was saving people, but she wasn't mad that he was invincible. She was mad that he lied. And basically they're over and he can fly away, flyboy. So that was the timeline of Mark and Amber's relationship. Obviously, I didn't go through every little interaction, every little conversation they had, all of the ups and downs. Obviously, I just broke it down to the bare bones of what's necessary. When did they meet? What were some major moments of good? What were some major moments of bad? What was the context around those moments? And what was the moment that broke the camel's back? That is what was important about the Mark and Amber relationship. And now we can finally get into more of the details. Because yeah, if you've seen the show, you have opinions on this. And even if you haven't, based on this, you probably have opinions on who was in the right, who was in the wrong. Oh, Chillixion, you're so fucking biased. Why are you always defending women and black people? What are you, a fucking woke hippie? Kill yourself. Well, the answer is yes, I am a, and I quote, fucking woke hippie. However, I'm not just trying to be a completely biased source. I actually want to look at some evidence, and obviously we presented the observable facts, but now I want to look into something that's actually pretty interesting. While I was taking my notes, I was originally going in with the goal to just take notes on the interactions between Mark and Amber to finally figure out who's insane and who's Amber. But I wasn't just marking down the interactions between Mark and Amber, but I was also marking down any other interactions between other characters, because surprise, surprise, there's other characters in this show. I didn't know that until I watched it for this video. But yeah, the interactions between the other characters, what's said to Mark, what's said to Amber separately from each other, and how all of this is kind of just guiding you towards the main general themes. Because, you know, when you're writing a story, there are themes to this story, and a lot of the topics sort of go to one theme. How that's written obviously differs from author to author, and I could talk about themes all day. If you guys want a video on themes, let me know in the comments below. The fact is that this relationship does build into some major ideas that are spread all around the story and not just with each other. And it gave me the idea to not just talk about what are the observable facts, but also try to figure out what is Invincible trying to tell you. Well, first, let's discuss something that the story is telling you outright. We are told repeatedly throughout the story that balancing being a superhero and any sort of relationship is extremely difficult. That's like one of the major ideas that the story shoots out at you in season 1. Want an example? Okay, let's give you one. At the very end of season 1, right after the credits, in the big Guardians of the Globe scene, we see all the Guardians interacting with certain people. We see some fights, we see some little slice of life stuff, but we get a long scene in between Red Rush and his partner. Now, of course, this does serve the purpose of setting up Red Rush's partner, who has interactions with Mark's mom later. However, this isn't just her existing. Red Rush is saying stuff too, and they're at a picnic, and Red Rush is having trouble balancing being a superhero and the relationship. He basically uses his super speed to, in the middle of a conversation, take care of some villains and then immediately come back, and he forgets to change out, and his partner's like, why would you do that? That's messed up, we're on a date, and, you know, back and forth. Even with literal super speed, he literally didn't miss a thing. He was not late. Balancing being a superhero and a relationship is still difficult. And that's just in between Red Rush and his partner. There's also other examples in the series. And finally, something that I thought was interesting, especially on a rewatch, was the entire conflict between Omni-Man and Mark's... Is her name Debbie? But yeah, the entire relationship between Omni-Man and Debbie is this, that being a superhero, quote unquote, for Omni-Man, and balancing a relationship is extremely difficult. They have constant relationship troubles in the season, and if you actually look at the relationship between Omni-Man and the relationship between Debbie and how it progresses through the episode, it's actually kind of a parallel journey. Now, it does start different. Obviously, Omni-Man and Debbie are super married, like they have a kid, like they love each other, and Mark and Amber start sort of not really knowing each other, but their ups match with their ups, and their descent matches with their descent. And that is because, you know, Mark has a parallel character arc with Omni-Man. My friend Johnny made an amazing video on this. You should definitely check that out after you watch this one. But, you know, the arcs of the relationships are also in a complete dynamic. So the idea of relationships between characters is super important, especially in this season, you know, when one of the main characters has a lot of relationship troubles. Hell, his first major relationship troubles when it comes to being a superhero. And even if you don't think these are all perfect one-to-one matches, even if you're like, this means nothing, you cannot deny that all of these are showcases of that being in a relationship and being a superhero at the same time is not easy. That we can all agree with. There's no debate there. Then the next major thing that I spotted is that Eve explicitly tells Mark to reveal his secret identity. Yeah, that's something that no one ever mentions when talking about this. Eve straight up says to do it. Eve says that if Mark is really serious about dating Amber, he should tell her that he is invincible. However, once he tells her, then the secret is out. Now that is because it's a very serious thing. I mean, that's a big part of your life, but you should only reveal it with someone if, you know, you want them to be a big part of your life, if you really trust them. And it's not just gonna be one person, it's, you know, it's gonna be multiple people at some point in your life, but you gotta be sure that you're really, really serious about it. Regardless of what you think about this, the story has a character who is not being painted as wrong in this scene that tells Mark, hey, if you're serious about Amber, please tell her your secret identity. Bouncing off of that, I know a lot of you are going to say, okay, but Eve said if Mark is serious about Amber, they're just high school sweethearts. He's not that serious. First up, let's ignore the fact that like he wouldn't know that. Have you ever been in high school? When you're dating someone, you think it's the end of the world. Like, you think it's serious. Eve said, if you think it's serious, tell her. A high schooler is gonna think a high school sweetheart is serious, even though we have the context that most of the time it's not gonna last. But also, they're not 14. High school is ending. They are thinking about college actively. Like, okay, yeah, they're still in high school, but they are closer to adults than they are to children. Like, seriousness is going to become a real thing in like less than a year for these characters. And when I said the Mark is gonna feel like it's serious, he does. There is just many examples of Mark talking bigger and bigger picture with Amber, and also continuously wanting to pursue a relationship with her. I mean, yeah, if you lose your chance with a girl, if you're really not that serious about her, you'll just move on and go to the other one. But if you really want to pursue a relationship with her, you will continuously, that must have been insane for you. But if you continuously attempt to pursue a relationship over and over again, despite mistake and mistake and mistake, in your mind, you must be like, no, I need to date her specifically. I really want to date her. She's not just a fling. She's someone I want to date and experience life with, and then, you know, grow and maybe move on later. But for the moment, you want to be with that person. And I think the biggest example is Mark straight up asking Amber to pursue a life with him. Whoa, I don't remember that, says the audience. Well, you do, you just didn't think of it in this context. Mark asks Amber if she wants to go to college at the college they visit together. And to some people, that's just like, okay, like, they're not living together, it's not getting married. Okay, what if Amber didn't want to go originally? Like, what if she had another college in mind? And Mark was like, you want to go to this one? Do you want to go to Ohio State University? Do you want to go to Michigan State University? Do you want to go to Portugal State University? And Amber was like, yeah, I would love to. I wanted to go to another one, but actually I'm gonna go with you, which means I'm going to be moving to another place, managing my money, because of you, and hopefully with you because we'll both be dating. That changes the course of their life. Where you go to college, though it might not be where you stay at forever, it's gonna change who you meet, where you surround yourself by. It's gonna change a lot of your life, especially if the college has different options. That's a big deal. That's my point. Mark is asking Amber to make a huge decision, a decision that will affect both of their futures. Mark is serious about Amber, at least at this point, and I am willing to believe that he is serious about her even before this point. Mark wants to say he's invincible multiple times. Before you guys tell me that I'm forgetting that, I'm not. He wants to say he's invincible multiple times. So he thinks, okay, I should tell her, but a part of him regrets it. And that's not a, writing flaw. I'm not making fun of the character of Mark for doing that. That is actually a good part of the writing and shows a lot about his character, but that's still like that's a character flaw. Like, that's a written in character flaw that is good for the story, but is a negative thing as a whole. The fact that he's doing that. Like, he's serious about Amber, and he continuously makes the choice to not reveal he is invincible, and also make the choice to not break up with her. And he only really makes the choice when he has no choice. And on top of all of that, on top of the fact that relationships while being a superhero are painted as being difficult, even on top of Eve saying you should reveal your secret identity, even on top of Mark being obviously serious about this relationship, we also get that Mark faces consequences for not being able to balance being a superhero in his real life. Yeah, he gets in trouble at work. He leaves, but he gets in trouble at work big time. He can leave, thankfully, but he doesn't do so at school. When he gets in trouble at school, he just kind of brushes it off. It's sort of implied that Mark doesn't really care about school in the first season. Obviously, he's going to school, but you know what I mean. He leaves work, he sort of brushes off school. These are two instances where his superhero world is interfering with his social life, and he just kind of doesn't care. So the story is telling you, hey, Mark is gonna face consequences for being a superhero, not being able to balance his two worlds. Just letting you know, so if one of the aspects of his real world is in trouble, it makes sense because we're establishing that it happens. And it's not crazy for the boss to be mad at Mark. It's not crazy for the principal to be like, Mark, you're in trouble. Just saying. And it's not so strange for you to want to like this here video. Yeah, I know it's the mid-ad break. But thank you for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying it so far. And again, if you enjoy it, click that like button. It shows support for my content and lets me know that you guys want more. And that like button means a lot. Let's get this video to 15 likes. You know what? Who knows if this video is going to get a lot of gas. Let's hope that it will, though. 15 likes just for funsies. But while you're down there, click that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. If you're watching all of my videos, click the subscribe button so that you can be notified whenever I upload a brand new video just for you, whether it is a discussion video like this one or one of my many songs which I released one, I think 2 weeks ago. And people like it a lot, so hopefully you enjoyed if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, click that subscribe button, click that like button to show support for me, show support for the Chillixion YouTube channel, and stay up to date with that their community tab. I announced that I was making this video, and I announced when I'm making new videos, new songs, and even live streams, which I'm going to try to be doing every single week, Thursday. But anyway, y'all, let's hop back in the video. Bye-bye. So, returning back to the topic, we've already discussed what was the relationship timeline between Mark and Amber, and we also discussed what the story is probably trying to tell you surrounding relationships in Invincible. But let's figure out something that a lot of you guys just tend to forget or tend to ignore when it comes to this discussion. Like, everyone's talking about what people say, Mark and Eve and, the context, and he's a superhero, but no one is really talking about the most important thing. How does Amber feel about all of this? When we meet Amber, Amber is a strong, independent person. She can stand up for herself. She has no problem talking back to assholes and pricks who are being dicks to her, and she will put hands on someone. And though we don't know too much about her backstory at the time of meeting her, it's pretty clear that she has had to stand up for herself, and she has had to defend herself, and she doesn't want to be treated as lesser or as less important. She, wants to protect herself and wants to take care of herself. So with that context, in a relationship, somewhere where you're very vulnerable, Amber is probably going to value being treated at a similar level, at a respectful level, and not being taken advantage of for being vulnerable, whether that be on purpose or completely accidental. Obviously, in the real world, when she's not in a relationship, she is super defensive, she's super independent, and she's there to protect herself from any harm. In a relationship, Amber opens up and therefore trusts her partner to not hurt her when she is open up and when she is being soft and vulnerable to her loved ones. With this, and with statements from Amber, we can figure out, how does Amber feel surrounding all of this? And she says a lot of it in episode 5. The first one she says is, "Do you think I'm important?" That Amber is debating her importance to Mark. She debates if Mark sees her as important because, from her perspective, she's saying, hey, do you want to hang out in this place in this time? Mark says okay, and then comes super late and has a nonsense bullshit excuse. To anyone who doesn't know, that just seems super fucked up. Like, do you not care enough about this relationship to come here on time, or tell me when you're going to be late, or if you don't want to hang out, say that you don't want to hang out. Don't just dance around it. Feeling like you're loved in a relationship is super duper important, and that goes hand in hand with feeling like you're important in a relationship. It shouldn't be, an imbalance in power. Both of you should feel like you are equals to each other, and when Amber, is always the first one there, and Mark is always extremely late and seems like he's lying for every excuse, she doesn't feel like she's being respected. She feels like she's being treated as an afterthought, even if that's not Mark's intention. What's also said in episode 5 a little more subtly is that Amber doesn't want to be lied to. She says she's been down this road before, and she would rather Mark just do his responsibilities than, be super busy and then, not have time for Amber. And even with Mark's excuses, it's obvious that Amber knows that they're lies, and she doesn't want Mark to lie to her. So she would rather that Mark not date her than Mark lie to her. And not wanting to be lied to is a pretty normal thing to want in a relationship. I'm currently in a relationship, and I think if my partner was like, hey, by the way, I actually just work somewhere else. Yeah, I was lying about my job the whole time. I would feel kind of shitty. I'd be like, oh, first up, that's not really a funny joke, you psychopath. But I'd be like, okay, so why did you do that? Like, did you not, like, why are you, so you just feel comfortable lying to me for that long about something that serious that's not like a joke? Like, you feel like lying to me? Okay, now I don't know when to trust you. That is the main thing. You want that trust in that relationship, and when someone is obviously lying to you or is keeping a huge lie from you and you're aware, but you don't know what the truth is, you feel like, well, I could be lied to at any time. Why should I trust my partner if they can't even be honest with me in simple stuff or stuff that seems super important that is affecting our relationship every day? And wanting to feel important and wanting, to feel like your partner's being honest with you, these are regular things to want in any sort of relationship. And that's just how Amber feels. She just wants these baseline needs met for a relationship, and she tells Mark straight up, if these can't be met, don't date me. but Mark continuously asks for chances. Mark asks Amber on that very first date, and then it messes up, and then he's like, wait, no, I didn't mean it. That's second chance already. Because most people would be like, no, I'm leaving. But Amber gave Mark a second chance. Just because they weren't officially dating doesn't mean that the chance doesn't count. Like, that's not how it works. It was a second chance at a relationship. That first chance, he blew it. He wasn't there. Then Mark was late to the family dinner, and he got a third chance. And, you know, the soup kitchen thing wouldn't count normally because I don't see it as being like she knows he was at the hospital, but Mark explicitly asked for another chance, so we're gonna count that as Mark's fourth chance. Mark got 4 chances at a relationship. In high school, Amber obviously loves this dude, and a lot of the narratives around her sort of paint her as pure evil, and that's mostly because misogynoir, but she gave him tons of chances. And for someone who's, you know, debating whether she feels important in a relationship and feels like she's being lied to, giving someone 4 chances is absolutely insane. And that's not me saying Amber's like a trooper for doing this. This is a very unhealthy thing to do. I'm not applauding this. I'm not glorifying this. You shouldn't give someone this many chances. Not only 1, are they not Spider-Man, but 2, value yourself and value like both of y'all's mental health, because it will be negatively affected if you do this. Finally, we can talk about the big question that people ask and it makes me so mad. Why is Amber mad if she knew Mark was invincible? I'm just gonna let that sit with you for a bit. If you think that's a logical question, you're not the smartest tool in the shed. You're pretty stupid, to be honest. In the episode explicitly, Mark also thinks this. So it's not ridiculous to think it, but it's ridiculous to think it after you finish the show. Mark is like, okay, well, why are we still fighting if you know I'm invincible? I told you the truth. And Amber's like, well, you just did that. I'm not mad because I wasn't sure where you were. I'm mad because you were lying to me. And I think a lot of viewers sort of take this to mean that she is mad only about immediately being lied to about, you know, not being invincible. And not mad about being lied to the entirety of the relationship. Because, 1, Mark did not reveal a major part of his life, which is not inherently bad, but again, they felt like they had a serious relationship, and that's built on trust. 2, any time that Amber was like, what were you doing? Mark was lying, which in a superhero context, of course he has to do, but again, that is lying. And the biggest thing, Mark didn't fully trust Amber, and that is just true. That statement is not inherently bad, by the way. Mark doesn't trust Amber isn't immediately vilifying Mark like I feel like a lot of you weirdos think it is. If Mark, how about this? Mark episode 1, Mark didn't fully trust Amber. That is just as true, and that is just a regular, normal statement that makes a lot of sense. But for this relationship at this point in time, when he is like, hey, let's have a future together in some way, he should trust his partner. Period. He didn't. And that's not a fault of the writing, and that's not a reason Mark is the worst, but it's a fact. He didn't trust Amber, and Amber doesn't like that because she trusted him. And again, it made her feel unimportant. It all loops back around. This whole thing all loops back around. Now, one thing I hear a lot about people is that, well, Amber can't be mad at Mark for lying, you know, because Amber lied and said, you know, like, you know, she didn't reveal that she knew Mark was invincible. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? If I find out that my partner is doing something behind my back, it's not my duty to reveal that. And then my partner's like, oh, you're so nice for revealing that. Oh, thank you. That's what you should have done. You should have revealed that you knew that immediately. Because if you kept it from me, you're equally as bad as me, who is doing the action that you found out about. It just makes no sense. People use that as an argument. And people are like, Amber knew for so long. I actually want to look and figure out when Amber could have possibly known. It's in between the soup kitchen and the college date. That's the only time. That's the only time she could have like known, because right before the soup kitchen, the last time Mark and Amber speak before then, Amber reveals in privacy to Eve that she thinks Mark is lying when he makes excuses. She says that straight up. She's not putting on a front. She's being honest. She thinks Mark is lying. Thinks. She's not sure what he's doing. She's not sure, like, she has no idea. She's like, he could be doing anything. She probably didn't even, like, see Invincible that much. So she doesn't know what's up with Mark. And then at the college, she's like, oh, I've known you've been invincible. My theory is that she found out at the college, but I have a feeling that you know, at the hospital, she was like, this superhero probably. So she knew, but not for that long. And even if she did, it's not her duty to expose Mark for what she found out about him. Like, that's not her job. That's Mark's job to be honest about his life, because he was serious about her. So again, we've talked about a lot in this video so far, you know, something that originally was just an argument in comment sections and internet threads, becoming an entire video where I'm looking over a season of television, figuring out how the characters are written, how the story is written, just to see if certain character emotions are valid, just to make sure that this very, very stupid and hateful argument just ends so that we can just consume the story normally. But even with all this, I want to make sure that my conclusion, my personal opinion, is concise, because I don't want to be misconstrued. I don't want people to go in the comments and say, this is what this guy thinks about this issue, when it's obviously not that. So I'm going to make it clear. Is Mark the only one to blame? No, he's not the only one to blame. Mark is not the sole bad guy in this situation. That would be an extremely unnuanced way to look at this, okay? Amber is someone who makes very silly decisions sometimes. She's not perfect. Mark is not perfect, right? They're both in the wrong at both times, you know? There's moments where Mark does stuff that I think is silly. There's moments where Amber does stuff that I think is silly. There's moments where Mark overreacts. There's moments where Amber overreacts. They're both over-emotional teenagers, and most importantly, they're both three-dimensional characters who can make mistakes and do make mistakes, and they're mistakes that are written in the story and that we can use our eyes to observe. So no, Mark is not the only one to blame in this situation. But the big one is, was Amber right to be mad? Yes, Amber was right to be angry at Mark. She is valid for feeling anger at her boyfriend, at her partner, for lying to her. It's that simple. It is that simple of a conclusion. Now, was Mark a superhero? Did he have special circumstances to lie? Yeah, I guess. He is a superhero, and in theory, revealing his identity is a big, serious thing, and puts perhaps Amber's life in jeopardy, you know, puts other people's lives in jeopardy. But lying in a relationship is still bad. Like, Mark doesn't have to date her. You guys know that, right? Like, Amber is totally valid in feeling angry because Mark made the choice to lie. A lot of the counter arguments to this I hear are, oh, what did you want him to do? Say a secret identity? That's not the only other option. Break up with her is the other option. He should have done that. If he didn't feel comfortable revealing his secret identity, the smarter choice, the better choice would have been to break up with her. That would have saved him a lot. That would have saved Amber a lot. It would have been a bit sad, but at least you were not lying to a woman for 5 months. And I can already imagine another argument. Oh, well, that would ruin the story. I'm not criticizing the story, I'm criticizing you guys for being angry at Amber. That makes no sense. Being angry at Amber for not liking to be lied to is bizarre. That is bizarre behavior, and I know me saying that's gonna get so many people angry because people really like the idea that they can just be like, yeah, Amber sucks, Amber's a terrible person, Amber was a really bad girlfriend. How? Why? Because she didn't like that Mark was late all the time? Because she didn't know he was a superhero when she was doing that. So it can't be that, right? Oh, was it for breaking up with him after he was in the hospital? She didn't really do that. She said she broke up with him in her heart and mind before she even knew he was in the hospital. And now the emotions are complex. So she didn't do that either. Are you mad at Amber for not revealing that she knew that Mark was a superhero? Well, if you are, that conversation gets a bit more nuanced. Should Amber have told Mark, hey Mark, I know you're a superhero and I know you're lying to me? Perhaps. Perhaps that would have been the right decision for her to make. Perhaps that would have been the mature decision for her to make. But her not doing that does not put her on equal footing of having done bad shit for the relationship as Mark, and especially does not give you as an audience member a reason to be mad at her. Like, mad at her. Not being like you should have made a better choice, but saying you shouldn't be mad at Mark. That is the insanity. Saying that she is explicitly in the wrong is insane to me. That makes no sense. And that goes into why I made the video to begin with. Because I knew that Amber was right to be mad. I already knew that. Of course, I blanked out my mind and did some research for the video, but I had a feeling that it wouldn't change. I mean, I have way more nuance now, so thank God I made this video. But again, I already knew that she was right for being mad. It's because a lot of you guys get so mad at her, so angry. And I know why. It's because she's a black woman. You guys really like being mad at black women on the internet, and it's weird and it's disturbing. Now, audience member, if you're mad that I'm saying this, please self-reflect. Because I am yelling at people who are mad at Amber because she is black and because she is a woman. Now, I'm not saying they're in the street saying Amber shouldn't be black and Amber shouldn't be a woman. There are definitely some people who are saying that. But they are mad at her, more mad than they would be if she was not a black woman, if she was a white woman, or if she was a white man. It's misogynoir. I mean, you're mad at her first up because, you know, she's a girl and she shouldn't be, you know, this emotional, and you already, you know, are way more critical on women partners of superheroes than you are on the actual superheroes. If you don't believe me, look at any discussion on any superhero relationship in the world. Most of it is attacking the woman, and it's not just bad writing, it is a coincidence of misogyny. But you also have biases against black people. Like, let's be honest. I mean, oh, you're biased, look at you. Yeah, I know, I want my people to not be oppressed. Isn't that crazy? You have biases because she's black as well. Like, you have reason to be more angry at her, you are more sensitive to the things she does, and you are less forgiving to her because she is a black woman. And if you are legitimately mad that I'm saying that, then sorry, gotcha. You're a racist. I don't care about your feelings. And if I legitimately open the eyes of some people who are mad at Amber, and now feel like, oh, I feel like I was a little too harsh on her, I'm not attacking you. I'm not saying you're an evil racist person that should die in a fire. Obviously, your opinions can change and you can grow as a person. But the people who already hate Amber, I'm not going to change their mind because they have a set bias against her, and they're going to live their lives and they're going to do what they do, and I can never change that. But I do have one message for them. Now, I love stories, and this channel, I make videos so that I can spread my love for storytelling, and I can help you guys love storytelling even more by understanding it and figuring out what makes it tick. But the most important thing I want everyone to know is that stories teach lessons. And yes, they're entertaining, they're very entertaining, but they all teach lessons. And we should want to come out of a story different than we went into it. So please, if you're gonna continue to consume Invincible or consume whatever art, look at what the story is telling you, and at least a little bit, try to change when you're done consuming it. And also, be nicer to black women, please. But yeah, that was my video on Was Amber Right? And I know this is probably gonna stir a bit of a controversy, at least a tiny bit. But if you enjoyed this video, like I said, click that like button. It shows me your support for the channel, your support for these kinds of videos, and your support just for this style of content and for the Chillixion channel. You know, join the gang. But if you really want to join the gang, click that subscribe button down below and click that notification bell so you get directly notified whenever I upload a brand new video. You know, I'm trying to get more videos out. I don't have a set schedule for anything except streaming, live streaming. I live stream on YouTube Thursdays around the afternoon. I don't really have a set time. I actually just finished up my Sonic 1 playthrough. I played the entirety of Sonic 1. I'm pretty bad. Play a highlight. Go! If I fall, I'm done. What? Pretty good. But I'm hoping to start up Sonic 2 eventually, and who knows, you know, whenever I live stream, you can come in the chat, talk a bit, we can hang out. I'm just playing video games and vibing. This is the one time you can get me when I'm not ranting about writing, and I'm just kind of in my comfort zone, and you can see me be the worst video game player of all time. And if you want to know when I'm streaming, what games I'm streaming, or, you know, get updates on brand new videos, participate in polls, make sure you keep up to date with the community tab. That is the best way to keep up with my content, to keep up with me, and for me to keep up with you guys. And the more support you guys show, the better the videos are going to come, and the more frequent the videos are going to come. Talking about videos, the last video I uploaded was a song. Yeah, my song Bill's Lament. It was a Gravity Falls song based on Bill Cipher, and you guys seem to like it a lot. It's on all streaming platforms, and the lyric video is right here. You can probably click it at the end screen, or it's probably going to be on your sidebar, hopefully, if the recommendation tab is doing its goddamn job. But yeah, I hope you guys like that song. I make music, if you don't know. I'm not just ranting about cartoons, but I also do make more videos about cartoons. I have videos on Gravity Falls, Clone High, Fiona and Cake, and I'm planning to make much more. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below your thoughts. You know, please be respectful. I know I was a bit mean in this video and it's a bit of a controversial topic, but show some respect, and trust me, me and the rest of the community will show you guys respect as well, depending on if you agree with me, disagree with me. You know, just be respectful of people, be kind to people, and don't say anything weird about black women. I'm begging you. Well, I think that's the end of today's video. I hope all of you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I have been Chillixion, and I hope all of you have a damn good one. Peace.